About 2 years ago, the world was reintroduced to the Fiat 500, but unfortunately for Fiat South Africa, it wasn't quite the sales success they hoped, probably because it was then, and still is, one of the most expensive fashion accessories on the market. But that hasn't stopped them from introducing a new model, the 500C. Yes, one of the world's trendiest cars has just got trendier, thanks to a removable roof. It's not a cabriolet in the truly modern sense. It doesn't use electro-hydraulic anything to fold away a metal top into a cleverly designed stowage spot that takes away from the boot space. No, instead they've decided to stick pretty closely to what the original 500C did back in 1957. But that's not surprising, considering a lot of what the 500 is today is based on that 1957 model. Sure, it's bigger in every direction, but the front is unbelievably similar, and there's no mistaking the profile. But the best thing they've managed to do is take a 50-year-old design and make it truly modern and fantastic looking. There is one other minor difference between the original new 500 and the convertible. The drop top, or slide top, has a slightly taller windscreen. The fabric roof slides open in 2 stages, closes in 3, and has some clever design elements, like the rear spoiler that makes sure the third brake light is always visible. Generally speaking, the 500C is a fairly customizable car, but you can only have your roof in one of 3 colors, the other 2 being black and ivory. Although it doesn't really matter what color you choose, because with the roof down, the 500C is just more fun. This car really is more than the sum of its parts. I mean, it doesn't have fantastic power or really brilliant handling, but there is just something about it. We'll get to the sums just now because that's probably this car's biggest weakness. But if you forget about the monthly repayments, you'll be able to enjoy things like the interior, which is another part of this car that has stayed amazingly similar to the 20th century 500, but still manages to be thoroughly modern. The old bits include things like the shape of the instrument cluster and the body-colored dashboard, which I'm not crazy about, and it's flat grey, but I've spoken to a few people about it, and apparently I'm in the minority. The new bits include the regular stuff like CD player, USB and Bluetooth, and it's that combination of old and new stuff that gives this car real personality. The 500C gets a new seat design, and even though there are some odd ergonomics like the seat height adjuster and the handbrake occupying the same space, it is a comfortable and user-friendly setup. But even with its good spec, good materials and good build quality, the interior still only manages to be just that, good, not fantastically amazing in any way. Power comes from Fiat's trusty 100 HP unit. It's a naturally aspirated 1400 with 74 kilowatts and 131 newton meters. 0 to 100 time, 11 seconds, top speed 182 kilometers an hour. Claimed fuel consumption figure is 6.1 liters per 100, and for every kilometer that you drive in the 500C, you'll spew 140 grams of CO2 into the atmosphere. Our test car has the 6-speed manual gearbox, which has a nicely weighted shift action. The 500C's handling is about what you'd expect, as long as you drive it like a 1400 cabriolet. A common problem with drop tops is scuttle shake, but that's not really an issue here, probably because most of the chassis structures are still in place. The 1400 motor's got a nice little buzz to it, and then when you push the sport button, you get just a little bit more power on pull-off, and the steering weights up nicely. Now all of that sounds a bit unremarkable, but in practice it's fantastic. I still don't know what makes this car so good, because it sure as hell isn't any kind of mechanical wizardry. The Fiat 500C is just one of those cars that defies common sense. It is super cool to look at, but there's nothing on the spec sheet that makes this a better driving machine or everyday runabout than its competition. But the something that it does have doesn't appear in any brochure. You need to experience it. And once your test drive is done, make sure you remain seated so the salesman can tell you the price. Actually, never mind, I'll tell you right now how much it costs. 194,600 Rand, which is a lot of money for a 1400, even one as well spec'd as this one. There's no doubt that the 500C has a certain magic, but at that price, it's not a magic that a lot of people will get to experience. The 1400 motor does a decent job of getting the 500C around the place, helped by a manual gearbox with great feel. Fiat's most fashionable model gets an added dose of cool thanks to the disappearing roof, but the price tag gets heavier as well, which will ultimately limit its appeal.